They say that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and that may explain why a wave of unemployment is suddenly affecting the canines of Virginia's police departments. Since July, when marijuana was made legal, dozens of pot-sniffing dogs have been made redundant. The new legalization is intended to reduce an uneven enforcement of the law. So now that marijuana is legal, what does it mean for the dogs who have spent their days sniffing it out? Take the case of Zander, the Belgian Malinois police dog, who after 4 years working in the Radford, Virginia police force is being relocated to a Georgia town. Zander has been trained to detect marijuana, and with the new legalization, Zander could create a false alarm for illegal drugs when marijuana is present. Before he is relocated to his new home in Georgia, Zander is continuing his training at an academy in Pennsylvania. He left on Sunday, a bittersweet moment for his handler, Officer James Tuttle. Tuttle spoke about the emotional impact of the relocation.
It's tough. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to realize that they're not a pet. They're a working dog. That's what they strive on. Nonetheless, you going to work with him every single day. He's at my house every day. So you build a connection. So it is always hard to let go. But at the end of the day, you need to realize that he's a working dog. He's still got years left on him to work, and that's what he wants to do. That's what drives them. So it would have been selfish for me. I had the option to keep him, but again, it would be selfish to me to keep him home basically while I go to work and to leave him at home, in a kennel for 12 hours while I'm working. And Belgians are very, very high energetic dogs. They need to be let out. They need to be worked multiple times a day just to get some of that energy out. So it would have been selfish for me to kind of keep him at home.
Zander is not the only dog to have been affected by this new law. Canines Max and Duke also finished their time with the Radford Police Force back in June. These dogs were over 10 years old and have been retired to their handlers. Zander, who is much younger at 6 years old, will continue his work. After all, Tuttle explains he is a working dog, and it would be selfish to keep him indoors. Training for the canine units is extensive. Zander and Tuttle have spent over 200 hours training together and have gone on over 40 deployments. As you can imagine, the cost of using such highly trained dogs is great. Chief Jeff Dodson from Radford City Police explains the impact of losing these dogs on police funding.
It's a tremendous impact. These dogs, again, Duke and Max were due to be retired probably within the next year or so. But, all this was kind of expedited due to legislation change related to marijuana. You really can't untrain a dog from the odor of marijuana. So that's what prompted the early retirements of both Max and Duke, and of course, forced Zander into kind of a reassignment to another department. But it's a tremendous impact. I mean, the dog we're getting from Pennsylvania with training and everything included, it's about $15,000. So for localities and for police departments that, are obviously feeling the financial crunch from COVID and everything else that's going on right now, replacing 3 dogs right out the gate is a huge, huge impact. And that impact kind of rolls into community safety. I mean, these dogs are a tremendous tool for us to combat narcotics and trafficking and drug problems within our communities. They provide us a specialized resource, so it's huge.
And the police dog relocation isn't just affecting Radford. Marijuana is legal throughout Virginia, and it's leaving smaller police stations vulnerable. Back in May, the Bedford County Sheriff's Office had to retire a dog early and spend $15,000 on a new dog that hasn't been trained in marijuana detection. Until they find the funds, Bedford County Sheriff's Office are running with 1 dog down. In fact, some police departments will be unable to afford the steep costs of a newly trained dog and are having to disband their canine units entirely. Cumberland County Sheriff Darley Hodges has had to retire his office's marijuana detecting dog Mambo. Now his department doesn't have the money to train a new dog. Mambo himself was adopted by his handler and is reported to be living a new, comfortable life out of the workplace. But what does this mean for the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department, and what effect will a lack of drug detection canines have on the community? Captain Scott Schwarzer spreads light on this issue.
The canines are a huge asset in the detection of illegal narcotics. Um, we have a number of other investigatory ways to work drug investigations, but on the side of the road, without a narcotics detection canine, our abilities to work are severely limited.
Oh, right. So do you think there'll be a big impact on the community when they don't have these dogs?
I definitely do think so, because the narcotics detection initiatives aren't just about arresting somebody and putting them in jail. We're talking about some dangerous drugs, and first getting them off the street, then dealing with the illegalities of the folks that are drug couriers and then distributors of it. But also the greater impact of, although I recognize people that seek illegal narcotics are going to perhaps find a way to get them no matter what. But if we're keeping narcotics illegal or illicitly used narcotics out of the hands of people that would abuse them or share them with children or other people that could be endangered, we just never know what we prevent by our efforts. That if we make an illegal drug seizure out of a motor vehicle, yes, we've got the legality of people getting arrested and being charged with it, but I'm always curious as to that greater impact that we never get to know about. Did we save somebody's life by keeping these drugs off the street or out of somebody's home or stopping an overdose that may have happened? We never get to know, and it sounds a bit highbrow to think about those things, but to me it's so much more of an impact in the community besides just catching drug dealers. It's more than that.
So I understand that 2 dogs, Max and Duke, were retired to their handlers back in June. And so that says a lot about the relationship they've built up working together with their handlers. How would you describe the relationship between handler and dog?
I would call it almost it's a family partnership. They truly are a team. These dogs spend 24 hours with their handlers, whether they're at work or whether they're at home. There's countless hours of training, not just for the dog, but also for the handler. If you have the world's greatest canine, but not a great handler, then the dog doesn't function as well as first the dog can, but also that the dog wants to. So the relationship is almost, if you see one, you see the other. Very cohesive, very tight relationship. And it should be.
My last question is, what will happen to the retired dogs who can't be rehomed to their handlers but are too old to be relocated to a different state? Will they be euthanized at all?
No. I am not aware of a canine that has had that happen to them because of that situation. I am not familiar enough with some of the alternatives as far as a dog that's too old to work but can't be retired to the handler's home or be rehomed. I know personally, if I have any say-so whatsoever, we are not euthanizing canines. I know if I'm just sitting here with my wheels turning, if we had that situation, we have a very tight and far-reaching canine handler community that we would find another home for that dog. We're not killing dogs.
The new dogs are being trained to detect methamphetamine, ecstasy, heroin, and cocaine. They will never have been taught to detect the smell of marijuana, so will not pick it up during a police search. This means when these newly trained dogs alert the police force to the presence of a drug, it will be because they have detected one of these harder drugs and not because of marijuana presence. Yet Merritt and Beth Clifton, editors of Animal 24/7, believe that perhaps the relocation and retirement of so many dogs shouldn't be so surprising, since Virginia's canine units may have been overstaffed. Virginia has a total of 62 canine teams who work an average of 27 calls apiece per year. This equates to one every other week. In fact, Virginia police are eager to downsize their police dog inventory and are offering police dogs for sale to other law enforcement agencies. According to Canine Working Dogs International LLC, the police forces run a K9 Leap grant program. This was developed to assist law enforcement agencies overcome budget restrictions and the overwhelming costs associated with obtaining working police dogs. But Clifton says this only demonstrates the overstaffed canine unit in Virginia, with programs such as these highlighting that there are ample dogs for distribution. Clifton also explained that the police dogs are only used as indicators to drug presence. The presence of a drug itself must be confirmed by a human police officer to be accountable in court. The dog can clear a subject, but not convict a subject. Clifton also said that after the Alex Geiger conviction in California, dogs being retired to their trainers are likely to come under much closer scrutiny. Back in 2016, Geiger's retired police dog, Neo, escaped from Grover Beach backyard kennel and went on to fatally injure victim David Fear, who was 64 years old. In 2019 and 2020, there were 2 more deaths by Belgian Malinois police dogs. Both of these deaths were children. We asked Captain Schwarzer about the risk of retiring the dogs to their handlers.
Police canines, when they're retired, they don't forget their training. They're still police canines. But when those retired dogs stay with the handlers that they have been with through their police careers, those handlers don't forget that they're police canines. They don't just automatically become a pet. They don't get untrained and turn into the dog that's all of a sudden, the neighborhood kid-friendly dog. I think it's totally incumbent upon the handler that now has a retired canine to be responsible to make sure those things don't happen. But I am not aware of any incident locally or across the state where there has been an incident where a retired canine did some harm somewhere in the community. The canines, they're trained. They don't forget their training, but the handlers that take on those retired dogs are still canine handlers too. So they recognize that responsibility that comes with that privilege of having their partner getting to stay with them after retirement.
The message seems clear. These are working dogs, not pets. They have dedicated their lives and have helped serve the US since the 1970s. Now, their time working in Virginia has come to an end, as a new canine unit takes their place, a unit highly trained in detecting substances other than marijuana. Listeners can be assured that the retired dogs are being treated humanely, the risk they pose to society being minimal. They will now enjoy a comfortable life either in their handlers' homes or in future employment. This has been Eloise Sumner reporting at Radford University. Thank you.